She called the cops and screamed, "Arrest her right now!" My wife was just standing in our own front yard, holding groceries, completely shocked. Out of nowhere, 3 men in cheap uniforms came rushing up, acting like police. One of them actually slapped the bags out of her hands, eggs and milk splattering across the driveway, then shoved her shoulder like she was some criminal. My heart froze for a second, until I realized something was off. Their badges were plastic. Their belts didn't even have real gear. Karen was standing on the sidewalk, arms crossed with a smirk, shouting, "You people don't belong in this neighborhood. Get them out before they ruin everything." My wife tried to stay calm. She said, "This is our property. You can't touch me." But the tallest fake cop leaned in close and hissed, "Ma'am, you're going to jail." That was it, the humiliation, the neighbors peeking from their windows, the laughter Karen let out when she thought she'd won. But she didn't know what house she was messing with. Because the second I stepped outside, she froze. I wasn't just any husband. I carried myself different. The kind of way a man does when he's been trained for war. Karen's smirk twitched when she saw me walking up slow, fists tight, eyes locked on those fake cops. She didn't know I used to be a Navy SEAL, and in that moment, neither did they. "Touch my wife again," I said quietly, "and you'll regret it." Karen laughed louder, trying to hide her nerves. "Oh, really? What are you going to do about it? These officers are here legally." "You're finished." But I could see it in her eyes. She wasn't so sure anymore. The whole street was watching, and I was just getting started. The tallest fake cop tried to push me back, barking, "Step away, sir." "This doesn't concern you." His hand hit my chest, but he had no idea what kind of chest he was pressing against. I didn't move an inch. My wife's eyes were shaking, half scared, half waiting for me to explode. The neighbors leaned further out of their windows, phones in their hands, recording every second. Karen shouted from the curb, "Yes, get him out of here! He's a danger to the community." I leaned forward, close enough for the fake cop to smell the steel in my tone. "You've got 3 seconds to get off my property." He tried to laugh, but his laugh cracked halfway. The shorter one behind him pulled out what looked like handcuffs from a dollar store and said, "We're placing her under arrest." He actually grabbed my wife's wrist, twisting it hard. She gasped in pain. That was the moment my switch flipped. I grabbed his arm, twisted it in a single motion, and the fake cuffs clattered on the concrete. He yelped, stumbling to the ground. Karen shrieked, "You can't do that!" "He's the law." I turned my head slowly toward her and said, "The law doesn't come with fake Walmart badges." The third fake cop panicked and shoved me, trying to look tough, but his hands were shaking. One move, and he was on his knees, staring up at me with fear. My training kicked in, but I didn't cross the line. I didn't need to. The fear on their faces was enough. Karen's smirk had completely vanished. My wife whispered, "Should I call the real police?" And I said loud enough for the whole street to hear, "No need." I already did. Karen's face dropped, her eyes darting around like she'd been caught. The sound of sirens grew faint in the distance, and the crowd of neighbors gasped. For the first time, Karen's little empire was crumbling right in front of her. Red and blue lights splashed across the street, and the real police cruisers pulled up fast. Neighbors rushed closer, phones high, whispering, "Finally, finally someone's gonna catch her." The fake cops froze like deer in headlights. One even tried to run, but I caught his collar and shoved him face first onto the lawn. 2 officers jumped out, guns low but ready. "Hands where we can see them," they barked. The fake cops raised shaky arms, their plastic badges glinting in the headlights. My wife clutched her wrist, still red from where they twisted it, and pointed at Karen. "She brought them here. She told them to arrest me." Karen instantly changed her tone, pretending she was innocent. "Officer, I was just trying to keep the neighborhood safe. They don't belong here. These men offered to help, that's all." Her voice cracked as she tried to play the victim. But I stepped forward, calm and steady, and pulled out my phone. "Everything's on camera," I said, scrolling to the live feed from my security system. "They hit my wife on our property." "They trespassed," and she orchestrated it. I turned the screen so the officers could see the exact moment the fake cop slapped my wife's groceries to the ground. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Karen's face drained of color. That's edited. That's fake," she screamed, her voice breaking. But the cops weren't buying it. One officer leaned toward me and asked quietly, "Sir, you military?" I nodded once. His eyes narrowed with respect. "Good. You handled this better than most." The neighbors started clapping, some cheering under their breath. Karen looked around, realizing for the first time she had no allies left. The fake cops were cuffed on the curb, heads down, while the officers questioned her. And then came the twist nobody expected. The sergeant stepped forward with a folder. He opened it, looked right at Karen, and said, "Ma'am, this isn't your first complaint. We've been investigating you for weeks." The crowd went dead silent. Karen's knees almost buckled when the sergeant said those words. Her face twitched, trying to smile like she was still in control, but everyone could see the panic bleeding through. "That's a lie!" she shouted, pointing at me. "He's dangerous! He attacked those officers!" The sergeant cut her off sharp. "Ma'am, those aren't officers. They're impersonators, and you paid them." His partner held up a small evidence bag with a wad of cash they'd found in one of the fake cops' pockets. The entire block erupted, neighbors whispering, recording, some even yelling, "Lock her up!" My wife stood a little taller beside me, her hand still trembling but her voice steady. She tried to humiliate me in front of my family. She tried to tear us down. I stepped forward, not yelling, not gloating, just calm steel. "You called fake cops to assault my wife. You trespassed on my land, and you thought you could bully us out of our home. But you picked the wrong family." I glanced around at the crowd, my voice carrying. I didn't fight for this country just to be told I can't stand on my own driveway. That line hit hard. Neighbors cheered, phones flashing, some even chanting, "Justice! Justice!" The sergeant gave a nod, and the cuffs clicked tight around Karen's wrists. For the first time, her mouth stayed shut. She was led into the back of the cruiser, her empire of fake rules crumbling in front of the whole street. My wife slipped her hand into mine, tears finally falling, not of pain, but of relief. "It's over," she whispered. I squeezed her hand, looking at the neighbors who had once stayed silent, but now clapped and stood with us. "No," I said quietly, watching the patrol car pull away. "It's just the beginning. This neighborhood belongs to all of us, and nobody gets to play God with other people's homes." The crowd roared louder, the sirens faded into the night, and for the first time the street felt free.